Hello, welcome along, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench, and welcome back, or welcome if you're new. If you are new and you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe down there and hit the notifications bell and you'll be notified of whenever I put a new video out. So here we are now with part 6 of this build, and we have conquered the airframe. All our seams are good, everything's done, we've done some scribing and everything. And yes, I know this has gone a bit deeper than a beginner's build because it's not been a very beginner friendly build for a nice beautiful model. Now if you're not worried about seam lines and stuff like that, fill your boots, build it, you'll end up with a great looking little Typhoon. But I'm just showing you how to go that one step further and just get everything to fit really nice. So I'm looking here, we have lots of bits and pieces to go on. We've got these little fins at the front. I'm not going to add those until after we paint it, I think, because they're going in on those tiny little pins. You can see them here. All you have is this little pin locating it, and basically they're going to get knocked, they're going to get broken off. So we're going to leave those and paint them separately. Nice to see that Airfix have got them connected to the sprue via the pins. That we can leave it on the sprue to paint them and then just literally nip them off, put them on when everything is finished. What I do want to do is fit this little probe here. This is the cover for the refueling probe, and then we've also got the top half. If you look on the wings, we have a sort of lower section, and we need to add the other upper section of whatever that is on the wingtips. What is it on the wingtips? Not quite sure what it is. Some sort of pod, I should imagine. So we've got C18 and C19. So here's C19. So I'm going to grab my cutters and remove this one. Okay, and then in fact I'm going to use my God hands, and then what we can do is come in here and rest that on there and just literally remove that bit of sprue. Okay, and then this was the sanding stick I said I'd use throughout the build. Rather than all my fancy ones. But, so this is 19, so this is this side. So this one's going to go onto here, like so. So I think what we're going to do with that is get it in position, grab a couple of clothes pegs, make sure when you look at it from the back end, make sure it's lined up so you've got a circle rather than having two C's misaligned. So I just put a peg on there like so. We'll lay that like that so that it can lay where it wants. And then we can look at the nose and make sure we've got a point. Sorry about my nails, guys. I've been biting my nails again. I don't know what's bloody wrong with me. Okay, so just get that lined up in there. And then drop of extra thin, just a small drop on the nose, just to tack it in place just for now, and that will stay like that for a few minutes. So I need to go on and do exactly the same on the other side. Now I'm guessing that the other side, yes, the other side was one of these broken off parts because for some reason Airfix have decided to go with this tree type sprue rather than a frame, so a lot of the parts get broken off. So there we go, we'll trim that off, just remove the excess with our sanding stick, make sure it's nice and flat, and then we'll end up with a lovely fit. So we'll just glue that one on exactly the same as we did the other side, and then I'll come back. Okay, so we've got I say that a lot, don't I? Okay, so they're glued on, all nice and level. Keep checking them, make sure they're not moving around, make sure you're keeping what it is. You've got two halves, and you don't want them to be like this. You want them to make a circle rather than make two D shapes, you know. So I've also put that on. I started to film it, but you're going to struggle if you're new to the hobby. This part has got such a tiny little location that you're going to struggle. I'm going to have to put some Mr. Surfacer in there because we can see we've got a gap underneath it. Now I'm not sure if that's my fault or what it is, but there's a definite prominent gap. There's a gap on both sides, so we'll deal with that with some Mr. Surfacer and then around the cotton bud, just like you've seen me do everywhere else. So I've got these exhausts off the sprue. I scratched one of them up in the centre here to denote which is 17, but it seems that they're both exactly the same. You can see they have this kind of smiley face arrangement on them. This little curved raised area, that's going to sit in that little recess in there. And what I've done, I've just sanded some plastic away from the upper surface of it because it was basically holding it away. Now you may think, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these off and paint them separately. Well, there's no real point because they're going to be like a metallic colour, and it's going to be metallic all the way up to this line here. So you've got the last sort of 10 millimeters there as well as all got to be metallic. So you may as well glue these on now, which is going to be easily done. So what we'll do, we'll just hold that down like that, and we'll put some cement into that area there because that won't be seen. Okay, and that'll be enough to hold that in place without making a mess with the glue. See, this is the beauty of the liquid cement. You can put it where you want to and it won't go where you won't want it to. So I can just come in there and just put some cement in there. Let that run in. There we go. So that's our exhaust on. You can see down the back end's looking like a Typhoon. Right. Obviously we're going to have to sand these seams along here as well. So we'll deal with that when the time comes. So we've now done all this. Obviously I've left these canards, is that what you call them? Left them off. So coming over the page. Okay, so we've got some missile pylons going on. So I think they're broken off the sprue as well. But what I'll do first is get these gear doors on and see how these fit. So we're not going to have it on wheels, we're going to have it on the stand. So this is A23. Now these are only going to go one way. It's going to be quite obvious which way they go. Okay, you can see this breaking off the sprue, which is unfortunate because you should never ever break the parts off the sprues, guys. You should always cut them off. Never snap them off the sprues. So just take away those excess sprue gates there. Do the same here, do the same there. And then I'm just going to lightly sand in there. Just like so. Just remove those sprue gates, sprue nibs, whatever you want to call them. And we'll see how these doors fit. And the answer to that is beautifully. They fit absolutely beautifully. What a perfect fit. And I'm going to sand over the surface lightly because I can see where the sprue gates were, there's like a raised lump. I don't know if you can see it on there in the reflection of the light. If you look here and here, you can see as I move it, it's not flat. So I'm just going to sand it out just to get rid of those little raised areas, make it look a bit prettier. Still got a bit of a sprue gate here. Okay, so that's fitting in there beautifully. And we should be able to do the same on the other side. Yeah, and as you can see on that one, I can show you with the light, you can see it's not flat. It's all sort of higgledy-piggledy on the surface. So we will also sand this one out flat. I'm not trying to sand the whole thing away. All I'm trying to do is remove the high spots. And as I sand it, and as you sand yours, you will see that where you've sanded is dull, and where you haven't sanded is glossy, and what you want it is to be all be dull. You've got these little white marks. This is something that's peculiar to the Airfix plastic. Whatever you do, if you go and see my Sea King build, you'll see it's the same on there. You always end up with this little white mark on the surface. Now that is actually, this is because there's one of the part sprue broke away. We're left with an undercut in there, so that will have to be dealt with if we're going to be fussy. But you can see that's fitting in there beautifully. It's slightly raised. Now that is probably because on these sprue gates they come up onto the edge, so we're just going to scrape those away. Okay. For some reason something is holding them up. That door is staying quite proud of the surface. What's this one like? Yeah, that one's better. Where's my other knife blade? I'm going to use a radius blade. I'm going to scrape out some material from there and from there. There we go, that's better. Right, so all I'm going to do is put a drop of cement on each corner, and that will run around. I'm not going to touch the door because if I do, I may get glue oozing up and it'll look like a weld joint. So just leave that in. What I will do is just give the door, just grab my tweezers, just going to give it a little tap. And that one there. Drop of cement. As you can see, tiny drops of cement in the corners, just like that. And there we go. Job done. So that's those in. It's unusual for me to do a model with the gears doors up, guys. Right, and then here we have a nose gear door. That's that one there. A22. Okay, that's interesting. Or is that it there? I think we have a door for nose gear up and another door for nose gear down. Just have a look, so clarify for you newbies. Yes, A38 is the nose gear door if you're having your undercarriage down, and then A22 is the one that fits up. Now you can see this one here has the little hinges on it, moulded on. Okay, so we're not going to use that one. This one here has no hinges moulded on, but it does have these little ejector tabs which are just dying to break off and leave a recess, which is annoying. There we go, so that's there. And then that sprue gate at the back. Sand that away. Job done. Right. Well, that's not a very good fit, is it? It's left a great big gap at the back. if we put it all the way back. That leaves a great big gap at the front. I don't think that's how it's supposed to be. Oh yes, it is. We've got a gap there, look. I don't know. Is this door longer? Nope. So we've got a gap there, so that's obviously supposed to be there. Well, we can just put some cement in there, and I'm going to put a drop there and there. And there we are, that's that done. Right, so we don't want that door. Okay, we don't want any of these wheels or undercarriage legs. We don't need any wheels or undercarriage doors. We do need the pilot. We don't need these undercarriage doors here. We do need the stand. We've got those pylons to go on yet, so we'll put them on. And then in here, this little bag of parts, let's have a look what we've got in here. We have another pylon which we want, we have a seat which we want, we have wheels and tyres and undercarriage and stuff that we don't want. So that can all go over there. So that's all we need now to finish our model off, guys. So I'm going to get this pylon off of here. Now this is D21. So what we'll do is we'll do this one first because we know this is D20. So just remove those ejector tabs from there. And then clean up that sprue gate there. And then just clean up those just like so. And then I'm going to give this a sand to make sure the bottom's nice and flat. It would in reality have a load of detail on it, but it's a starter set and it's 1/72 scale, so we're not going to worry about that. We do have a little step at the back there, so we'll make sure we observe that and sand accordingly. And then there we go. So this one was 20, wasn't it? Yeah, this one's 20. So 20 is going on the port side. So that's going to go on like that. Okay, so what we'll do is put a couple of drops. It's going to cover that seam line as well that we worked on. So we'll put some cement in there. And it can pick up. Make sure it's nice and square. And also that it's pointing forward. Make sure it's parallel to everything else. So I'm going to give it a little tweak. There, just like so. And then I can just brush some extra thin down there. And that'll get that securely welded on. And I'm going to repeat that for the other one. And then I think our build is done. Alright, so we've got everything here now to complete our model. We've got the seat, the pilot, the two canards, the stand and the airplane itself. Now the stand is going to be easy to assemble. What we're going to do is just put a drop of whatever glue you're using in the bottom here. If you're using the tube glue, whatever, always try and put the glue, if you can, put it in the hole, because if you put the glue on here and then you come along and you miss, you're going to get glue everywhere here. Whereas if you put the glue in the hole, it doesn't matter if you miss going in, because basically you're in. The glue's in there. Now I'm going to put some cement around there, and we're going to put some in there because we've got quite a gap around there. We'll have to fill that in with something. But this will then sit in the bottom of our aircraft, and as you can see, as James showed us on his channel, we're able to rock the aircraft on the stand and it'll just stay there. Okay, so that'd be a nice little display for your little shelving unit or whatever. So we'll take that off of there. We do have a bit of an ejector pin mark on there, I've just noticed. There we go, that's that gone. So that is our stand in position. I'm just going to make sure it's vertical. I'm going to rest this on there. And we're just going to let that dry. What I might do is put some super glue down in there and then wipe it away with a cotton bud just to fill in that gap. But anyway, there we go. So all the rest of that can either go, start a little spares box for yourself. So if you should come along in future and get an aircraft that doesn't come with undercarriage, you've got some undercarriage you can glue on, whatever. Or just throw it in the bin, whatever you want to do with it. But basically all we need now to complete the model is here. So that's all good. Right, so what I'm going to do now is get some Mr. Surfacer around here. And also we're going to sand away the seams on the sides of these pods, these wing end pods. We've also got on the back of this one, it's flat, so we'll get that one nicely sanded. And then the same on here. And just make sure they're all lovely. Okay, so I will get that done and then I will be back. Right, so I've done the Mr. Surfacer around there and I've gone in and taken it off with a cotton bud. So now what I'm looking at doing is getting this canopy fitted. So before we need to do that, we need to get the seat painted, get the paint, get the seat painted and get the seat fitted. Easy for you to say. And we also need to get the pilot figure painted. Now, in the instructions they're telling us to paint the seat grey. I've just looked online at Google Images, and all the seats I've seen are black, but we'll do a bit of dry brushing on it to sort of just add a bit of detail. So this is the paint that comes with the kit. This is the 33 matte black. So what I'm going to do is take some of this out of this pot, and you can see the paint is quite thick. So I'm going to put some of that paint into there, into that upturned Tamiya jar, and then grab some ordinary tap water and just mix that up to make a thinner paint. Okay, a little bit more. We want it thin enough so that it covers, but not too thick. We want it thick enough that it covers, but thin enough that it doesn't just eradicate all the details. So I've got this on a piece of blue tack on a cocktail stick. So I can just come along now and brush this on, just like so. And as you can see, it's chasing away, which must mean I have oily fingers, because it's not staying on there at all. Right, so we'll leave that. Got my fingers as well. We need to paint this area in here black as well, so we'll see how we get on with this. Got a big hair there, so we'll go around here, and as you can see, it's taking on here much better. There we go, just paint that on there, right up to the edge if you want to. You can see now covering that bit where we filled and sanded. That's all looking good. If you remember, I showed you in the cockpit we did some dry brushing, and we'll do the same again on here. Then we'll come up to the front. Remember again, we've got that great big gap we filled. As you can see, that's all gone. This just shows you can use this Helmbrol paint that comes with the kit, and you can get a nice finish with it. You just need to keep it wet Okay, now we may need to give that another coat because I can see grey plastic showing through. We'll see how it looks when it dries. As you can see, that's looking lovely. I'm just going to go around that edge there. There we go. Now, because we've got this painted already, we may get away with it now. Yeah, it looks like we're going to get away with it now. The paint is slightly thickened, the water is slightly evaporated, which helps. Okay, so there we go, that's our seat. Pretty much done. We'll get all the back painted there. I'm not sure how much of the back of the seat can be seen. We'll do the whole thing black, and then I think we'll paint the cushion in with a different colour. We'll just, you know, make up colours for the, just to add a bit of interest so that it's not all just black in the cockpit. There we are. There we go. There's our seat done. So leave that to dry. I've got a wooden block here with some other bits on. It's got some holes drilled in it, so I can stand that there. And there we go. And then I'm just going to take my water, take a cloth, clean the brush. Watch how I clean the brush. Don't go like this, you ruin the bristles. Just stroke it back and then pinch. Okay, and then there's all sorts of extra things you can do, but for now, as a beginner, that's fine. That's good enough for you to go on and use next time. And this here, what we'll do is just wipe that off on there. Just remove the excess of paint. We'll need a drop more water on there to get that paint thinned out. Oh, it looks like it's waterproof once it's dry. I didn't know that. This is my first time using Humbrol acrylics ever in my life, guys. It looks like it's kind of, once it's dried, it's kind of waterproof. Obviously here it's on glass, that you'd never expect it to stick too well to glass, but yeah, it's great. It's done a really good job. I mean, it brushes beautifully as long as you don't thin it too much. But as I say, we may have to give that forward area of the cockpit another coat. But we need to leave it for at least a couple of hours to make sure it's fully hardened. Otherwise, when you go to paint it the second time, you'll just lift the first coat of paint. So we'll shut the lid on there. Okay, and then see where we go next. Okay, moving along. The keener-eyed amongst you may be able to see I was doing another project and I had some black in the airbrush, so I just sprayed over this with the black rather than go and brush over it again. And I also just quickly sprayed over the seat as well. Now I've actually painted the cushion in a grey colour, as you can see, and then just given it a dry brush. Remember, we did dry brushing early on just to highlight some details. You can also see I've dry brushed around the back of the cockpit here just to highlight the details a little bit, just to make it look a little bit more interesting. And I've painted the pilot figure. I didn't want to do that on, you know, in front of you because I am awful at painting figures. And basically I just sprayed it green and then painted the head and the face, the helmet and the face, sorry, white. Then went over the face with some flesh colour, painted the visors black, put some gloss on there, went over with the wash. It's just, as you can see, it's just, it's not very accurate anyway, because if he was flying, he would have his goggles down, and he's got both his hands on his knees, so he's obviously an autopilot. And also, if you look, he's got half his leg missing. Normally they cut the legs off that way, not that way. So that's a bit weird. So anyway, we're getting ready to put all this together. These are bits off of the sock with camel I'm working on. So we're going to get this seat glued in. So we'll get this off the stand. And just looking at that, how the seat fits, and it fits in there beautifully. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this Tamiya oh, no I won't, because you probably haven't got any. I'll use my extra thin, because this is probably the one you've bought. This is the one I suggested that you buy. Okay, so I'm just going to put a nice big drop of that in there, and then drop the seat in, and then I'm going to use a cocktail stick just to make sure the seat is down and positioned correctly. Okay, and that will now stay in there. We don't want the seat falling out once you've got the canopy on. Okay, so that's that. Now, for accuracy, what I should have done is remove the belts from the seat for inserting the pilot. But basically, you can see the pilot's going to sit in there like that. So what I can do here is put a drop of extra thin on the base of the seat here, and I'm moving the brush around so that it dissolves the paint, and that will get a nice big drop of glue going in that area. And then I can literally just drop that pilot in, and once again, using a cocktail stick, just push him down. I painted the gloves grey, by the way, as well, and I painted the boots black. Not that you can see any of it. Make sure he's central, otherwise he might affect the canopy, because remember the canopy's like a dome. I'm half expecting the canopy not to fit over that seat because it's so thick. I've had issues with the canopy, as you will, if you've been watching the series, you will be aware, and I wonder if it's just my kit that's a bit dodgy. So what I'm going to do is put another drop of extra thin there, and then drop him down in. I want to make sure he is glued in there solid. We do not want him coming out once the canopy's on. Okay, and then just to be sure, what we can do is drop some extra thin down there, and we can drop some down there. As I say, you want to make sure he is absolutely glued in solid. The worst thing is you got your model, you pick it up on a stand and he falls out and he's just rattling around inside the cockpit then. Okay, so there we go. Right. So that's that. Now I need to get the canopy out of the box. I've put everything away. Sorry, this is rather unprofessional, but then most of my videos are, aren't they? So, right, get the canopy out. And we've already taken it off the sprue because we had to go at fitting it, and I'm glad we did, because we had a bit of a fun cleaning it up. So we're going, as we can see, it does fit okay over the pilot and the seat, so that's all good. We've got quite a large gap at the back there, but that's okay, we can fill that. And yeah, everything is cool. Right, so that can get clamped down and painted. Now what we're going to do is take a brand new cotton bud. I've got a cotton bud here on the side of the bench. I'm not going to use it because you never know what's on it. If it's got super glue on it and you rub it over your canopy, that's it, it's over. So I'm going to clean the canopy, make sure it's all nice and clean on the inside, and then we can put that down like that. And then you can see I've done lots of work to get this to fit nicely. So you may want to do the same. Go back and have a look at my videos. I showed you what I did to make it fit nicely. It doesnn't go down very enough over. I think it may only be my model, I don't know. I can also see there that what I've done here, that I've touched that with the glue, which is a shame. That's a shame. I'm going to have to repaint this now because that looks awful. You can see I've got a shiny patch there where I went in with the cement on the pilot. That's a shame. So that's going to hold me back. So I'll get that done and I'll be right back. Alright, so I've just brush painted that over again, so that's all done, and we're good to go. I've got a bit of plastic or something there. Okay, so that's that done. Right, so we are good to go, so we can drop the canopy on. Now you can see it's fitting quite nice. What I've done is just sand. I remember what James said from Tivoldi Go, sand some of that away and lets the front come down easier. So what we're going to do is glue this on. Now I'm just looking, what we've got to be very careful of is if anything on the inside of there is touching, when we put glue on, it's going to wick up onto the clear part of the canopy. So we've got to be very careful. Okay, and do not, under any circumstances, do not use super glue. A lot of people like to use clear glues or whatever, I would much prefer to use Tamiya Extra Thin. Now, I'm very conscious here of this side here. When I put Extra Thin on, it's going to wick up and go onto the clear part. That's what I'm concerned about. So, I think what I'm going to do is hold it in place. I'm just going to put a drop there. Put a drop on that lump at the back, and we can put a drop here on the front. You see, now you see how that glue is wicked around there? That's what we've got to be careful of. If it wicks up the side, that's when you ruin your canopy. Like what's just happened there, you can see it's wicked up under there. Okay, so hopefully it'll just dry and not show too much, but this is something to be very wary of. You can potentially destroy your canopy. So what you can do is start using your clear glues instead, as I mentioned earlier, and that will prevent it from happening. But I like to take a gamble. I think it'll look great when it's done. That there is going to look awful. You can see that there where the glue is wicked up underneath the clear. That's going to dry really frosty, and it's going to look terrible, especially if I let it go. So what I'm going to do now is grab a piece of tape, which I've got here prepared earlier. Hold this down and pull. And pull. And that'll hold that canopy down like that. That's really annoying. I wish I hadn't done that. But that is the problem with using Extra Thin on canopies. That's why some say use clear glues or whatever. But I'm aware that you probably won't have that, so I'm showing you how to do it with the glue I've told you to buy, and then I've messed it up. It'll probably look alright. We shall see. There's nothing you can do about it. Don't bother trying to take it apart and clean it up, because you won't. It just looks a mess, that's all. It's such a shame. There we go. Right. What we could always do is do a fake mask on the canopy and have a thicker frame just to hide it. We shall see. But we're going to leave that to dry. You can see the glue is also wicked up under the side there. It's because I've used so much cement, it's the problem, but I'm aware this canopy is not a good fit, so it needs to be properly held down. And here we go. So that, my friends, is that for this part. Right, fast forward a couple of days. If you remember, I did this canopy and I made a mess at the front, so what I did, turned the camera off, I took it off. I couldn't leave it like that, it looked terrible. I took it off and I've actually scraped and polished the inside and got rid of that horrible glue mark. So all I've done is basically a radius shaped blade, scraped over where the part. The main thing is leave it for like 24-48 hours to go hard, and then scrape it, and then using progressively finer little sanding sticks polished it out. Now I respect the fact that a lot of you guys won't have the tools to do it, so if you do make a mess with it, you know, you're probably better off using the tube glue in the kit or white glue to glue the canopy on. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go around with some white glue around the back and around the front, and then tape it down and see if it will actually hold in place with the white glue. So this is the safer way to do it, and it's reducing the risk of having the, as I had before, the glue capillary up and make a mess on the clear parts. Now it's capillaried up the side here as well, which is a shame. But luckily, where it's capillaried up on the sides, it hasn't gone above where the frame is, so it's going to be painted over in grey anyway. So that's going to be okay. So I think we'll put a nice big dollop around the back here. And the other beauty of this stuff is it will dry clear. So anything that's exposed, I'm just going to pull that forward a bit there, get it away from the clear part. So I'm going to put another dollop on the nose of it here, just to make sure we've got plenty there to hold it in place. And then what we can do is slide it into that hole, bring it down. I've got a piece of tape here at the ready, so we can stick it down like that, just push it into position, and then get the tape, pull it down there and pull it down there, and as you can see the glue is kind of oozing out a touch, so we'll grab a cotton bud, just go around like that, and there you can see the glue hasn't oozed up onto the combing there, so that's cool. And I'm just going to put some tape around the back here. I'm not sure if it's going to do very much, but got those bloody streaks in the way there. So that'll just help to hold it down as well. Now the other thing you can do here with this stuff is, I want some on the tip of the cocktail stick, not on the end, is come in like this and push it into the gap, and it'll act like a filler. Okay, get it into that gap like that. Make sure it's on the end of the cocktail stick, and then you can just dampen a cotton bud and just wipe it away, and that will leave. You can see here, it's where I've just put that on, it's capillaried up under. This is a real problem, this canopy. It's way too close to everything inside. I think whatever glue you use, you're going to get a problem with this. So you're going to have to be really careful with it. And there we go. I'm going to grab a clean cotton bud, just damp it, and then so that should hold that canopy down. Now that bit that's oozed under there should disappear, but it's better to not have it than to have it. And what I'm going to do is round the front here, I'm just going to do the same. Just to kind of make sure that we don't have any gaps or anything anywhere. We're going to go around with Mr. Surfacer afterwards and fill anyway. And in the sides here I'm going to put a drop of extra thin. But there we go. So we can go around wherever there's glue with a dampened cotton bud and just make sure there's no excess. And just leave that to dry. And I attempt to leave that for 6 hours, I think. Let it dry, see if it will hold. If it doesn't, then we'll have to go back to using plastic cement, but it's got it needs quite a pressure to hold the front down. So there we go. So yeah, my big tip to you is be very, very careful. That you can even see here with this thick white glue, you can see how there at the back of the canopy, you can see just in front of my finger how it's oozed up under. So that would happen with any cement you use at all. So just bear that in mind. It's going to be an issue with this particular kit. So Lancasters are the same. Lancaster canopies, where they go around the back of the canopy, the glue just goes up because the interior detail has to be a certain shape, and to get it in they have to make it a certain size, but I'm not going to go into that now. But there we go. Right, leave that to dry, and I'll see you back for part 7. So sorry for wasting your time with you watching me mess it up. I was going to film doing this cleanup, but decided not to in the end because it's one of those things you just have to have a go at. Just all you're doing, if you want to practice it on a piece of scrap sprue or something, or on an old clear part. Put a drop of cement on there, let it dry, just gently scrape it until you end up with just a scraped surface, and then just using progressively finer sticks, polish it. And that is what you will get. And you will find that when you use these sticks like this one here, I mean, if you've got the Infini sticks, this one here, you could perhaps cut a sliver off it. But what will happen is when you wet it, when you polish, when it's done its thing, it will start to squeak. And that's how you know when it's done. Okay, right. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.